Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking at one of the absolute most extraordinary predators on Earth. But this isn't just your standard story about the fastest runner alive. It's actually a striking paradox. We're going to unpack the story of nature's ultimate biological machine, which, surprisingly enough, also happens to be an incredibly fragile survivor. Okay, let's dive into this. What happens when the fastest animal on Earth literally can't outrun extinction? It's wild to think about, right? On one hand, you've got this predator that seems basically untouchable when it's in motion. But on the other hand, the very things that make the cheetah so incredible are exactly what make it deeply vulnerable to a world that's shifting rapidly right beneath its paws. To really wrap our heads around this paradox, we first need to understand the sheer perfection of its design. And here it is, the cheetah. Officially the fastest land animal alive. I really want you to think of this creature as the undisputed champion of evolution. Seriously, it's a masterpiece, capable of going from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds. Think about that. That is faster than the acceleration of most modern sports cars. For millions of years, nature has basically acted as a master engineer, tweaking and refining this animal until every single part of its body is designed for one specific, defining purpose: pure speed combined with just astonishing precision. This elegant hunter dominates the savanna, not by being the biggest guy out there, but by possessing absolutely unmatched agility. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it reveals the actual mechanics of this biological machine. Every single part of its lightweight frame and powerful legs is hyper-specialized for high-speed chases. First off, you have the slim body, stripping away all unnecessary bulk just to reduce drag. Second, there's that incredibly flexible spine. It acts almost like a coiled spring, stretching and snapping back to maximize the length of every single stride, to almost 25 feet. That's huge. Third, the long tail. And fourth, the semi-retractable claws. Actually, unlike your typical house cat, a cheetah doesn't have those protective sheaths for its claws. They stay out permanently, acting exactly like the hard cleats on a sprinter's track shoe to furiously grip the earth. Of course, all of this incredible anatomy requires a very specific stage to perform on. Their reliance on binocular, high-definition vision really dictates their habitat. They don't just happen to live in the open grasslands and savannas of Africa. They require these sweeping landscapes as an absolute evolutionary necessity. You see, the cheetah uses its incredibly sharp eyesight to scan the horizon and spot prey from miles and miles away. They need that wide-open space to calculate complex interception vectors, to plan, and ultimately, to run. And right here is where we start to see the evolutionary gamble the cheetah has made. This comparison really highlights how completely unique the cheetah is among the big cats. On one side, you've got lions and leopards, right? These predators are built like tanks. They rely on brute strength, massive muscle density, and raw power. But then, on the other side, the cheetah has totally traded that typical feline arsenal of dense bone and heavy muscle purely for aerodynamics. Its hunting style is a completely different ballgame. It can't wrestle massive prey to the ground. Instead, it has entirely bet its evolutionary chips on being faster than absolutely anything else on the savanna. So, how does this perfectly tuned machine actually execute a hunt? Well, it happens in 3 distinct rapid-fire steps. Step 1, the cheetah moves silently through the tall grass, completely hidden, carefully closing the distance to its target. Step 2, the launch, an explosive, blinding sprint. In mere seconds, it's just eating up the ground, chasing darting gazelles across the plains. Step 3, the prey zigzags wildly to escape, but the cheetah uses its heavy, muscular tail as a high-inertia counterbalance. It snaps that tail to the side to instantly change direction, literally defying physics to turn on a dime while running at 60 miles per hour. But then, the chase ends, and we kind of have to take a breath here, because the sudden drop in energy is massive. Going from a complete standstill to highway speeds in seconds places an immense, punishing biological cost on the cheetah's body. During a full sprint, a cheetah's core body temperature can spike to lethal levels, sometimes hitting 105 degrees Fahrenheit or about 40.5 degrees Celsius. To put that in perspective, that's a severe, dangerous fever for us humans. Their lungs are desperately heaving for oxygen, and it can take up to 30 minutes just to catch their breath. The physical toll of that explosive sprint is so severe that it leaves the cheetah completely drained, completely vulnerable, and operating right on the absolute edge of its biological limits. Which brings us to a harsh, immediate reality: post-hunt vulnerabilities. You'd think the hard part is over, right? But even after successfully catching its prey, the cheetah's ordeal is far from over. In fact, it often finds itself in immediate peril. First, because of that massive exertion we just talked about, the cheetah has to rest immediately just to recover its energy. Second, there's that very high risk of overheating. And third, because it is so exhausted and panting just to survive, there is a constant looming danger of its food being violently stolen right out from under it. So the crucial point is this deeply tragic dynamic. The cheetah does all the grueling, exhausting work to secure a meal, but it often loses that meal simply because it lacks the strength to fight off larger predators. They are the ultimate victims of a biological phenomenon called kleptoparasitism, which is basically just a fancy scientific way of saying they have their hard-earned meals stolen by the savanna's opportunistic bullies. Lions and hyenas hear the commotion of the chase, zero in, and use brute power to just walk right up and take the food. And the cheetah? It can't fight back, it would be killed. So to survive, it has to use pure intelligence, perfectly timing its hunts for when larger predators are asleep or far away, and then eating as fast as it possibly can. And as if surviving as an individual wasn't hard enough, imagine the sheer biological tax of trying to raise the next generation completely alone in this kind of environment. Female cheetahs raise their cubs entirely by themselves. There's no pride to help protect the young, no pack to share the burden of hunting. The solitary mother bears the absolute entire weight of keeping herself and her vulnerable cubs alive. She has to hunt to produce milk, leave her cubs hidden and totally unprotected while she does it, and fiercely guard them from lions, hyenas, and even eagles in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth. It is incredibly tough. For those cubs, the savanna is a pretty unforgiving classroom, and the lessons take months to learn. They have to master the delicate art of stalking without making a sound, the mechanics of the high-speed chase, and crucially, how to survive alongside much larger predators. But the learning curve is brutally steep. Because of these intense threats, cub mortality rates can be tragically high. We're talking sometimes up to 90%. That makes the mother's solitary teaching literally their only lifeline against the constant dangers of the wild. Let's move on and see how this builds, because everything we've discussed so far, the exhausting hunts, the kleptoparasitism, the solitary parenting, these are just the natural biological threats. Now we have to ask a much darker question. Can nature's perfect hunter survive the modern world? We're pivoting now from the ancient rules of the savanna to the existential, human-driven threats that are closing in on the cheetah faster than it can possibly run. The odds are really stacking up against them, and the situation is incredibly urgent. Today, the cheetah has lost roughly 90% of its historic range. 90%! There are estimated to be fewer than 7,000 left in the wild right now. Habitat loss is rapidly shrinking the wide-open landscapes they absolutely require to calculate those high-speed hunts. Climate change is altering the delicate balance of the ecosystems they rely on. Illegal hunting continues to actively strip them from the wild. And on top of all that, human expansion is relentlessly encroaching on their territory, creating more conflict and leaving the cheetah with literally nowhere to run. We really must remember what is at stake here. The cheetah is far more than just a biological curiosity or the answer to a trivia question about the fastest land animal. It's a symbol of elegance, of razor-sharp focus, and of pure survival. For thousands of years, this incredible predator has ruled the African plains with an unmatched speed and precision that has totally captivated human imagination. Yet, as we've just seen, even nature's most perfectly engineered hunter now faces a profoundly difficult future. Protecting the cheetah means protecting the balance of the wild itself. This isn't just about saving one single animal. It's about preserving the ancient, intricate tapestry of the savanna. As the sun sets across those sweeping plains, the cheetah continues its endless race for survival. But it's no longer a race it can win on its own. So the ultimate question is, will humanity step up to the starting line to help them win? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.